8. Another 9. Anybody in the Zoom room who can't use the chat box want to offer a number? I see a 7 and an 8. I see another 7. Okay, so we've got a range here that I'm seeing between 7 and 9 there. 6. Okay. Thank you. I want to share some sad news and some happy news before we get started today. Some of you may have heard one or the other of these things. Sad news is that our member Joan Steele died this week. Partner, beloved wife of Phil Steele, long-term members of Lev Ha'ir. We usually see them on high holy days, year after year. And Joan's funeral is today, but it's not local. It's over near their house at the shore. And I've been in close communication with Liz, the daughter in the family. There's also a couple sons and a bunch of grandkids. Everyone's gathering around. And Donna will be putting on the listserv Phil's address so that people can send condolence cards. And when the time is right, we'll see if he wants to do something in this community to remember Joan. But that brings me to the good news, which is why Donna, our Chesed chair, has not yet put this on the listserv, is that Donna is the proud grandmother, along with Jay, the proud grandfather, of a new baby in the world, Julian Carl, who is now less than 2 days old. And that's the good news. That's the little brother of Joey, their daughter's first child, whose name I actually forget. But anyway, happy news there in that family. So as usual, the sorrows and the joys, right? All intertwined there. The circle of life. And now let us offer our Torah learning prayer together. And Lauren, you can just make sure everybody's muted until it's their turn to speak. Hello, Paul and Phil. Welcome, welcome. Just in time for our Torah prayer together. Same as candle lighting blessings, but it's la'asok b'divrei Torah. Are we ready? Everyone together. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Thank you to the source of all for inspiring us to be lifelong learners. Amen. And I see that Joan is joining us. Okay, very good. Next question, who was able to do the assignments for the third and final session of our series on what does Noah Ark have to teach us about climate crisis? Just show me a hand if you were able to do it was watching a video. Diane's kind of somewhat, okay.
I didn't draw a picture.
Okay, you did not do the picture. And Shirley Koenig, you are such a student. My goodness. Okay, Shirley did the assignment. Great. And did anybody draw the picture? Oh, wow. Okay. So, and Fran, you did not see a link to the video. The link to the video should have been in the material that was sent out. Okay. Right, Fran usually does all the work. So Fran, if you had seen the link, I'm sure you would have done it. Okay, well, anybody who did any of the assignment have any comments on? Otherwise, we're going to just leap right in. Okay, you can always go back and do it there. Okay, I'm going to review where we've been, because I know not everybody's in every session here, but the overall topic here is, what does the story of Noah's Ark have to teach us about today's climate crisis? We started out in our first session just having kind of nostalgic memories of Noah's Ark, which many of us encountered as a children's story. Many of us played with little sets of the two animals and paraded them on and off the ark, or, it's just kind of a happy children's story. And we lifted up some of the moral messages of Noah's Ark story from those times about ethical behavior, that there is cause and effect, that when there's sin in the world, there are consequences. Because that back then in that story, that flood came because people were acting so badly. And also, I'm not even sure we mentioned this, but it's an important part of that story. At the end of the story, there's the rainbow in the sky, in Hebrew called the keshet. And that rainbow stands for the covenant between God and humans, saying that God will never again destroy the planet. God will never again cause a flood or an environmental catastrophe. And that's the covenant of the rainbow that takes place at the very end of the Noah story, Keshet. I know a little baby who just got named Keshet, which means rainbow in Hebrew, Keshet, the covenant of the rainbow. But that very much leaves open the question of whether humans will destroy our planet, our environment. So the covenant there is that God will never again destroy Earth. There will never again be a flood or any other environmental catastrophe caused by God, whatever that means. But it doesn't say humans can't destroy our own, the planet that sustains us. So from the early children's story, we get these ethical ideas, but then we went on in session 2 to actually critique the story and learn about some sad implications of the story that don't serve us well in today's climate crisis. We started thinking about all the people who didn't get on the ark. Many of us had images of all those people who were left behind or who were drowned. We started thinking about the ones who weren't chosen because they were either disabled or young or old or poor, or in any way, they were not the chosen ones. We started realizing that none of us would have been on that ark. And probably most people we know would not have been on that ark. The gay people wouldn't have been on the ark. The Jews wouldn't have been on the ark, right? We started thinking about the Muslims wouldn't have been on the ark. We started really looking at the implications of that story. And it stopped looking like such a useful parable for climate crisis today, for addressing climate crisis today. I'm just going to name a few things that we need to think about today as we look for a new story, a Noah's Ark for today to address what we face today. And what we've realized in today's world, and from really delving deep and analyzing that story. There really are no individual solutions. Noah's Ark presents an individual solution. Noah and his family are going to go get on the ark and everything's going to be fine. Today, there really is not any individual solution to global climate crisis, right? You can't go get a bunker in Arizona and think that you and your family are going to survive climate crisis. Or like, I think I might have mentioned my friend. I seriously have this friend who said, I'm not worried about climate crisis. I'm going to buy land in Nova Scotia for my daughter, and she can go live there if civilization collapses. I'm like, what? Every supply chain will have collapsed. There'll be no gas, no food. Like, what are you thinking? There is no individual solution. And the Noah story teaches us that there is an individual solution, that Noah and his family can sail off and it will be fine. So that's not helpful today because we're in a global situation and we need global solutions. A plan really has to work for everybody. The other thing we looked at in this story was that care and accommodation cannot be left to figure out once there's an emergency. You can't start thinking about how to make the plan work for people who use walkers or who are blind or who are in a wheelchair or have any kind of disability, just elderly. You can't start waiting. You can't wait to start thinking about how to make this work till there's an emergency. Things are only going to be worse once there's an emergency, not suddenly there's going to be new solutions. We learned from Julia Watts-Belzer, discrimination precedes destruction. We need to start right now thinking about inclusive communities where gay people, Jewish people, children, old people, everybody is included in the care and rights and, what the basics of a survivable life. You have to start thinking about now. You can't wait to start thinking about those things till there are hate mobs in the street and, polarized wars and devastation and destruction and emergency. Once there's an emergency crisis, things are only worse, not better. So when we learn that discrimination precedes destruction, we realize that being ready and being inclusive has to happen now, before we're in an escalating exponential situation of climate destruction. So I want to stop there and just to check in and sort of see if people have things to add or reflect on or say about that. This is all cullings from what we've already done in our previous 2 sessions. And today we're going to stand on that foundation and move forward. But anybody have a comment or thought or something else that you want to bring forward from our last couple sessions? John.
When you put it like that, Julie, it does look like no one was just thinking about his immediate family along with the animals. I mean, his approach was just look out for number one. Like during the time he put together the ark, he could have said, "Here's a crisis country. Let's strain ourselves out, all that stuff." But no, he just took care of his own little thing. So I think we all be more global. We ought to consider the whole planet Noah's Ark, the Barney.
Thank you, John. I think you're raising a really important point, which is what got us into this mess was everybody just thinking about number one, especially those corporations that were just all they thought about was profit, profit, profit. Let's burn the fossil fuels. Even long after people knew, the scientists knew in those corporations, burning these fossil fuels is literally destroying the possibility of life on Earth. Starting in the 1980s, those corporations knew, their own scientists knew that burning fossil fuels was destroying the possibility of life on Earth, literally overheating the planet, disrupting climate cycles, causing vast droughts and extreme weather and flooding and all the things we're seeing more and more. But the scientists in those corporations knew, the corporate leaders knew, but they kept making profit, looking out for number one. Profit, profit, profit at the expense of everybody on the planet. So that mentality has not served humanity well, John. Thank you for mentioning that. Who else has? Shirley. Shirley, you can unmute.
One of the comments that I heard today on Climate One, which was so compelling, was a description of what occurred in an area in New Orleans during that flood of some people. These were elderly African-American people who did not leave and were pulled out of their homes. And there was a person who was able to rescue some of them and tie them to a tree. And I'm sorry, I don't recall the name. I believe he was a minister who described this in such vivid detail and talked about his involvement in the climate movement and said literally, he is willing to give his life for this because our lives are on the line.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you're saying is that you're recalling a story where we all saw how there are throwaway people and throwaway places that don't matter. You know, poor people in New Orleans during Hurricane Katrina, that just didn't get the care, didn't get rescued, didn't get the services. And we see now, you know, massive flooding in Bangladesh that nobody's paying very much attention to, but 250,000 people uprooted from their homes because of flooding in Bangladesh. So there are, people, there are just sort of sacrifice zones and sacrifice people that just don't matter. And that's not gonna serve humanity now in this day and age. Believe me, we will be part of those sacrificed people if we really get down to emergency situation. Paul.
Well, I think about, what's been fairly recent that has some parallel, and that's COVID. Because I think what happened is there were sacrifices, unfortunately, right from the beginning of the elderly in the nursing homes. And then we had an administration before that wasn't really on top of it, but you could say they at least were supporting a vaccine, which did come quicker than you'd think. But I saw that we need government, and that's what we have to sort of support, that it's a clearinghouse government for more people than not. But without government, which some people believe we need less and less government, there will be more and more sacrifices that way. The rich, the powerful, they will keep going. But the people that much will be not only just left behind, they will be lost in the melee. So I think I got to see a good example of what happened with, let's say, the current president, who put more resources, more focus, and then I think it was able to give enough attention that we actually have a different perspective of COVID now. I'm not saying global warming is the same, but we actually now live with COVID, and we have to live with the climate crisis. That's the challenge of it. We can't just dissociate from it, which people do, because even like today, this rain that we're having today, if it was snow, we would be shocked how much snow this would be. I mean, but if it's rain, we can probably live with it, but it will cause flooding. And more and more, when you listen to that news, you understand that the intensity now has to be somewhat reconciled by a clearinghouse. The only one I can think of is our federal government. The state and the local can work from that. So I'm a big believer still in government, because otherwise, less people will be sacrificed. Hopefully, more people will be in the mix, especially people of color, elderly. They have enough understanding of people that can't take care of themselves. So I don't know what to say about it, except that I personally think I need government, and so I'm going to keep supporting that perspective, especially with something as major as climate crisis, because otherwise, the people that think less is good, less government, we are going to be left behind automatically. I think, because we're not rich and we're not powerful, unless any of you have like some Swiss bank account I don't know about. But we're not going to probably get to go the distance just automatically, because we're cleared out off the bat. So
thank you, Paul. So governance matters a lot, and also like what government you have matters a lot. It can work for you or against you. Phil.
Yeah, I was just thinking as you're talking about that, we're very spoiled. And I don't think people realize just how spoiled we are, starting with the creation story. It leads up to our creation as human beings. The whole point of the story is us, and everything is there for us. All these things are created for us. All of nature is created for us. Well, it leads to our getting swelled heads, that we're separate from nature, that we're above nature. We're one step above, and nature is something that's there for our enjoyment. And I think that whole point of view is what is really working against our cooperating to deal with the crisis. And even scientists, there's this whole thing about the anthropic principle. I don't know who's familiar with that, but it's the idea that everything is created for human life because all these things have to be just as they are to support human life. Therefore, it must have all been created for human life. That's the strong version of the anthropic principle. And if you believe that, then, you know, it doesn't help you to deal with the fact that it isn't, the fact that it's not working for us.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not. To say that
Thank-
everything is perfect for us is false.
Thank you, Phil. So the perfect segue. We need a new story, right? And the way Jews in Judaism create a new story is we don't throw out the old story, we create midrash. That's what reconstructing Judaism is all about. So there's a perfect segue, Phil. The old story is actually not serving us well in an age of climate crisis, for the reasons we've identified. It's about an individual solution. It doesn't address the issue that we already have a lot of discrimination and we're not going to do better in a state of emergency than we are already doing now. But we're going to use the process of midrash making, which is a Jewish process for finding a new story. And we're going to do that in just a minute. But I want to welcome Joanne. Joanne, if you're able to turn your camera on, we'd love to see your shining face. And a moment of visual access. We've got about 21 people, I think, in this Zoom room. And I am beaming in from Boulder, Colorado, where I'm with my daughter and her home, Rosie Greenberg. And Joanne, are you there? Can you turn your camera on by any chance? If not, we will appreciate you being there in whatever way you're there. Okay, so the way midrash making works, it's very tried and true Jewish process from the earliest days of Judaism, is you take an inherited text and you're adding story, more story between the lines of that text. You're not actually throwing out the original. You keep the original, but you can add a wealth of further development, ideas, values. In fact, you can turn the meaning of the original story on its head. And this is a very tried and true Jewish process for reconstructing what is not maximally useful in this generation. So just an example, this is midrash making and also like the kind of legal discourse discussions that people had, you know, the rabbinic debates that evolved Judaism, not throwing anything out, keeping everything in. So I'll just give you one quick example of how that worked. You guys remember that really problematic text in the Torah about if you have a rebellious child, stone them to death? You should stone a rebellious child to death. This is a famous sentence in the Torah. Okay, I'm going to ask somebody. Phyllis, do you think we should stone a rebellious child to death? Phyllis does not think we should stone a rebellious child to death. Beverly, do you think we should stone a rebellious child to death? No. Our values have evolved since whatever was going on back then in very ancient times. But we still have the Torah text. And you don't change the words of Torah. So the rabbis have great conversation. They say, well, let's see if this was ever applicable. First of all, it only applies to a child. So that means it only applies to someone under the age of 12, because in Judaism, you become an adult at age 12. So we're only talking about people under the age of 12. But it's talking about a rebellious child. Now, nobody who's under 12 really could rebel because they're just a little kid. So therefore, you've just gotten rid of any case that could actually be a rebellious child. Everybody see how that was done? Like it's sort of, they're saying it's an oxymoron to have a child who's rebellious. So there is no situation in which this would apply. Of course, this took pages and pages of discussion to get to that. But that's the kind of process of like never negating the actual text, but just expanding, elaborating, deepening, reading between the lines. and making it relevant for today. That's just an example. So we're going to take the Noah story, the actual text of the Noah story, which we read the first week for those who did that, but you can also look it up at any moment. And let's remember some features of the Noah story that we have to keep in our current stories, because we're not going to throw out the basic text. We're just going to make it a completely different story that works for us today through our own creativity. We're reconstructing Judaism here in this Zoom room to make it work for this moment. So, okay, I think I need to backtrack for 1 minute and just a few elements of what we're facing today that we need to address in our renewed story making here. So, climate crisis. Let's together collectively come up with what is it we have to address in our new midrash making here today? What do we have to deal with in what we're facing today that was different from what maybe in Noah's time Noah faced? Paul?
I would say inclusion. You know, there was obviously that survival of the fittest back then, and you know, 2 by 2, and we have to really think about, you know, more than just 2 of every species. It just seems like it's a setup. You know, we need more than 2 caterpillars, and we need more than 2 wombats, right? So that would be a big, it's going to be a big ass vote, right? But because that won't cut it. New order, I think.
We're going to need solutions that work for everyone, not just for the elite, the privileged elite. Okay, really good. Diane.
The story, as I read it, is of a struggle, well, between God and Noah being the receiver of God's message, or the relationship that's highlighted there is God and Noah. But now we have sort of a different God. We have a God of prophets. And, you know, we need to address a different approach to that communication, you know. That's it.
I love that. So like in Judaism, idolatry is like the worst possible thing. And we've really idolized prophet, right? We got to take prophet off the pedestal and find real God again, somehow in our reconstructing of the story. John.
For one thing, like I've said, we have to let people know there is a crisis. I mean, the danger is real. I mean, the ozone layer is being eaten up, and the water and land are being polluted, and we have to let people realize the danger is real. But all these politicians that think that you're crazy talking about the environment. I remember in the early 70s when the environmental movement was kicking off, and everybody was ridiculing it like a bunch of tree huggers and bird watchers, etc.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a huge education component, right? It is the burning of fossil fuels that causes climate crisis. So we have to go to the root of the problem somehow and stop burning fossil fuels. That means a huge energy transition for our homes, our transportation, our food systems, and that has to be part of our new story. We can't keep creating the flood. We're not going to have a solution if we just keep reflooding the planet, and we're doing that by burning fossil fuels. Okay, here's anything else we want to make sure we're addressing when we create our new midrash? Deb?
So I don't know if this would be what you have in mind for this situation, but I think something about greed causing the problem. I mean, I think about I think it was the Koch brothers and some other people, executives of some of the oil companies, that purposely misled the public into believing there was no such thing. And it really turned out to be more successful than they ever imagined. And so to this day, some people question it. I don't know how how they question it, given the evidence that's so obvious, but maybe something about that.
Thank you. Okay. Lauren, in just a moment, we're going to need breakout rooms of about 4 people. And please notice that in some Zoom rooms, there are 2 people already. So you want to have 4 or a maximum of 5 in a room. And I'll tell you when to start them, but you can start getting them ready. Karen.
Yeah, this may be simplistic, and it doesn't go to the causes, but just as far as accommodation, like if the ark were to be accommodating, it would have ramps for wheelchairs, right? And it would have rails for older people, and it would have instructions in Braille. So that would have to be part of the plan.
Yeah, we can think metaphorically about what the ark will be, right? But it has to accommodate all kinds, right? Exactly. So, okay, now you can't change the sentences in the original story. So let's remember, Noah actually heard the call to build an ark 100 years before the flood started. There was some time. We don't have that amount of time now. I mean, literally, the vast majority of scientists in the world through that COP28 that just happened a few weeks ago, the big international climate summit that happens every year, they say we have 6 years to cut carbon emissions in half, or we're going to have escalating catastrophic results of overheating, like icebergs melting, sea levels rising drastically. Really, really serious consequences. We have 6 years globally to get this right. But we do have some time, like 6 years is not nothing. That's our 100 years for right now. That's the 100 years we have. So we have some preparation time. What do we need to do globally in this amount of time? So we're going to think about that. Other things about the story. So, whoever heard God's call, which in that case was Noah, has a responsibility to all of humanity. So what are you going to do in your story once you hear that call? Are you just going to go start cutting wood and building your ark, or what are you going to do in your midrash? So anything else that we need to make sure to take into account in the story? Well, actually something about saving the species, right? It's not just about human beings. Like in the original Noah story, we're saving a lot of species. How are we going to think about that? Okay, so everybody's going to be in a breakout room. You're going to have 3 or 4 people to work with. We want to hear your story about what is your midrash for modern times about our flood that we face, which is climate crisis. And what's your story? What story you're going to bring to our group collectively together? And we're going to hear the stories. So as soon as Lauren opens the breakout rooms, we'll all be in them. One person should be the scribe. So you'll need a paper and a pencil, or a writing utensil in your room. And you're going to create your story of once Noah hears the call, what happens next? We're kind of rewriting the story of Noah and the ark, but Jewishly through Midrash. And we're going to see what we come up with that will be inclusive and will be speedy. And thank you for whoever wrote down in the chat box that we need the scribe is going to write down the new story after Noah hears the call. And there's a little time to alert the world and prepare the world, because we know he had 100 years. And we know we have some years, not really quite 100, but okay. I think we're ready to open the Zoom. Does anybody have a question before we actually move into the breakout rooms? Any questions? I'll tell you how much time you're going to have. You're going to have 20 minutes. We're going to come back in 20 minutes and present our stories, discuss our stories. So you have 20 minutes to come up with a midrash for modern times. I'm excited. Joan? But you're on mute, Joan. But I'll tell you what, everyone can go into their breakout rooms. Okay, I think we are a breakout room.
We are actually not in a breakout room. But it looks like everyone else is, besides you and Joan. Julie, if you want to be in one, I can put you in one, but I also made you co-host, so
Oh, can I not
um
be in one when I'm co-host? That's okay.
actually I'm not sure. I can actually assign you to one if you'd like, but um
Well, did you put Joan in one?
yes, she just accepted.
Okay, good. Is there a way for me to look at who's in which breakout room?
Um
I know the host gets to see that. It's not a big deal, but
if you click at the bottom, like at more where there's three dots,
yeah.
you might be able to, there might be a breakout room option to see who's currently in them.
Breakout rooms. Let me just see. Oh, yeah, there is. Thanks. Okay,
Sure.
let me see. You know, I'm just going to make sure everybody's in a good room. 1, 2, 3, 4. Those people have 5. All right, room 2 is slightly weak. I think these are actually pretty good. Yeah, this should be fine. This is good. So then at 1 minute before 10, you can close the rooms and they'll get 1 more minute to do their thing. Does that sound okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, super. Then I'm going to go off here and we'll just give them their time to do their work.
All right.
Somebody from each group is going to present their midrash for the group, and you'll have to unmute yourself. So from group, which group wants to go first? Just somebody volunteer, and we're going to hear your midrash. Midrash for the modern day. Who's first?
John.
It looks like Phil is first, actually. Phil is first, and then John will be second. Just Phil should be unmuted there. And here we go. Phil, you've got like about 3 minutes-ish to present your midrash.
Yes, we have Phyllis and Tan and
Roby.
Roby and us. And
And a couple others.
And we started out thinking about more inclusion and more instruction to Noah, to educate people to the need for this. Even the animals would need to want to come on, so they have to believe in this. And then we went on from there to we need to believe in the facts of what's happening. We need to not deny it. We need to teach people not to deny it and to elect politicians who would not deny it. We needed to get into supporting the industries that would be necessary to not live on fossil fuels.
You didn't say that.
Yes.
I don't mean to interrupt, but
And
no, we didn't say that.
We did. We talked about all those things. And then we ended up saying that we need a whole different story, which understands the fact that it may not be necessary, it may not be possible to save us.
Well, I hate to say, I want to say one thing. We both in this, we thought of leaving God out because we felt like,
to that.
I know, like, I'm sorry, go ahead. Because the one thing I'll just say is that we're, there was doom in our group. We had genuine doom,
Yes.
and there was also hope. But we have to realize where is our agency, and we were looking for maybe for Noah to have some agency separate from God. So we would have to be saving nature and the planet, but we'd have to think about a larger scheme of it, is what I was
Right, which
getting.
led us to talk about Elon Musk, that maybe he could find a way to save us that we hadn't thought of, with a whole different way of living on another planet or whatever. And that, it might be about figuring out how to live the life today that we have until it's over, and brought in the Buddhist perspective of everything ends and you need to live for the day.
Didn't say that. It's all right.
We did.
Really interesting. Okay, thank you to that group. And I want to say 2 things in response to that. One is, God help us if we have to rely on Elon Musk to save us, but sorry about that. But you raised a very interesting question, which is that in a different Torah story, you remember how Abraham fights back against what God decrees? Abraham says, don't destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and they negotiate. In the Noah story, he doesn't challenge God. That would be an interesting midrash. You just made me think. And what if Noah said back to God, hey, look, this isn't a very good plan, just putting me and two of each animal on an ark. Let's come up with a better plan and really challenge God. Anyway, beautiful. And I think there may be some comments. Diane, is this a comment about their midrash? No, okay. Susan, do you have a comment about that midrash? Okay, I think John was next for his group.
Yes, thank you, Julie. And about that comment, I mean, Elon Musk is one of those billionaires that profit from pollution and destruction of the environment. So you can't count him. Or
I mean, he's also brilliant and creative, you have to admit, and he is an innovator. And yeah, anyway, okay, John, what's your group come up with?
Okay. Joanne mentioned that if they do come up with a Noah's Ark, there would be no braille and no ramps. And the sea, if they have to have a Noah's Ark, the sea population must be the healthiest human specimens. But the best thing we decided was to alert the rest of the world to do something now. I had the idea that it would be a collective effort. No individual. The idea of an individual ark was right out. No ark, that wouldn't work, as we've seen. And Joanne says a solution would need to be based on reality. No, and also how to enthuse people on this issue. How to get people excited about this, get them motivated. And then we discussed the Tower of Babel and the story. We come up with the idea that the people in the Tower of Babel story haven't learned anything from the flood. I mean, they expected there was another flood going to come, and the humongous tower all the way to the heavens was their way to escape the next flood. And then the story about everyone's speaking their own language and nobody knows what's going on, so they abandon the project. It shows how we must communicate with each other, no matter what language we're speaking, to work together collectively to fight the problem. And we also discussed the recent COP28 conference. We decided our own idea of the COP28 conference was, well, the conclusion from the original COP28 conference was putting nature, people, and life and livelihood at the head of climate policy. Nature and life and the planets and people's livelihoods, their jobs, that has to be important. And we have to fast track energy transition and the slashing of emissions, like take care of it right away. And also transforming climate finance, like how to finance this other transitions and the cutting of emissions. Like I said, just as the ark is out, the tower is out. And we decided to call our idea COP LHI International, Climate of Our Planet Plan, /international.
Beautiful. Okay, thank you for sharing all that. And I want to lift up one piece of all of that. There was a lot there, but one of it is the issue of communication and framing what the changes need to be. Decarbonization is a really boring topic, but when you talk about, having healthy air and having thriving communities and green jobs and those kind of things, it's much more inspiring to people. So like the communication piece of it, really important. Okay, next group. Is it either Diane or Susan? Are you in two different groups? Great. Okay, Diane, go for it. And then Susan.
All right, let's see. I was with Shirley, Beverly, Deb, and Evie and myself. So I think what we were focused on is somewhat decision making, like how to invest people in decision making towards addressing the crisis that we all know is upon us. So we kind of came up with an outline of an approach, and it's basically, I think, 4 or 5 parts. One would be to really just start somehow reaching individuals on a very personal, very selfish, very personal basis by getting people to be invested in the urgency of the situation by saying, this is something that you can do so well to help your family, your dog, your tree. And then kind of like reverse psychology, aren't you doing a good job? Look at how nice you're treating the park that's down the block, or saving doctors from destruction, and so start with the individual. And then our thinking kind of took us towards co-equally working with groups, somehow grouping ourselves into being invested in making decisions, so that people believe they have a stake in the decisions that are going to get made. But we needed some guiding principles for that. So one of those guiding principles would be or approaches to that, sort of framework for getting in groups to be invested in decision making to rectify and to stave off the worst that can happen, is to get finding what people have in common. We're very conscious of how much we're divided, and that we feel like there is no hope to reach an impasse. But I think somebody lifted up Cory Booker and how he had an anecdote about crossing the aisle or something, and somebody ended up supporting each other's bills because of it. Let's find what's in common about what's at stake. But that has to be done in the context, really, of doing justice and fairness, to lift up what Julia taught us from last week, which we would hope would lead the groups and the individuals to think about being inclusive. The inclusivity, stop the selectivity, stop the separateness, stop the class and caste systems and the 1% versus the 99%. That's got to stop, because that has created this environment in which we're in a crisis. And then if none of that doesn't work, let's go radical, like the Noah story, which none of it makes any sense. How Noah at 600 years old ended up doing this, and how only his family gets to stay on and then still make babies. I don't know. So let's go crazy. Let's do some radical Noah story all over again, and let us be selective. Let us somehow figure out a way that we could do eugenics or selective process, even though I just got the complete opposite. Like this, if all else fails, then somebody gets to decide that we want to get rid of Elon Musk, and we purposefully lifted him up and said, oh yeah, that guy, he's got to go, and his ilk. This is what we said as a group. So like, if this all doesn't work, then somehow there's some magical way to get rid of the bad people who are in charge of the climate problem, and just leave it to the rest of the good people to survive, and animals and plants to survive, and fish. That's it.
Okay, so I want to really highlight Diane's group just came up before they got to the eugenics part. They came up with a very strategic and powerful organizing process, which is you start with the story of self. What is the self-interest? You go to people like that. And then you go to the story of us. Where's the common intersections, the common good? And then you go to the story of now, like what is the opportunity of this moment? Very strategic organizing pathway that you just your group came up with. So I'm going to move us along a little so we have a chance to hear Susan's group's story. Susan, you are up.
Okay. My group was Fran, Phyllis, Joan. I'm not sure I missed somebody, and me. Anyway.
I think Iris.
Iris, sorry. I knew I missed somebody. So we also started a little bit about the individual level and having people take it seriously, start earlier. But we said that people need to do something in their own communities and so on. And we were thinking in the United States, if you say, I can't do it by myself, you need to be vetting the people that you vote for, the candidates and so on, local to national. What are they doing? Join larger political actions that are involved in reducing carbon footprint, no use of plastics, et cetera, et cetera. So it goes from the individual to more of a group national. But then we decided, well, that wasn't enough. So we thought, what about all the public service messages, like with smoking and drugs, et cetera, especially the smoking campaign and so on. So we thought, well, it'd be a little scary to have a public service announcement throughout the world with countries that agree that we're all going to die in 6 months, in 6 years, and the earth is going to fade away. So we thought, well, who's going to even announce the seriousness of this climate change, et cetera? And we thought, and how are we going to do it? The God today is the internet and social media. And we have to be using all of those TikTok, X, blah, blah, blah. But we also have to use, a lot of people only respond to immediate kinds of gratifications. And a lot of those people respond to entertainers or world leaders and so on. We thought, well, if Taylor Swift canceled her concert unless people did XYZ, like didn't use plastic bags or didn't burn fossil fuels and so on across the world, and other entertainers, or if the Dalai Lama or somebody, but people that mean something, because it seems like in our me culture, a lot of the people that mean something are entertainers to a vast majority of the world. And we knew some places the messages wouldn't get across, like China, maybe Russia, but still it would hit a lot of countries. And we thought about like when we had that huge AIDS concert throughout the world, it did make a big impact. So maybe we could have a few of those. And finally, when we went off, I don't know if we went off the deep end or not, but we got a little more daring. Someone suggested, what about if we rotate people from where they live? Because there's countries that are disappearing, like maybe some of the islands in the Philippines. So take those people and put them in France, and take the French people on those islands and see whether their risk level, their scariness and so on increases, and they're willing to do something about it. That was us.
Wow. Bold thinking. You got a lot of thumbs up for involving Taylor Swift. I saw that. Folks, we're coming to the end here of our What Story Have to Teach Us About Climate Crisis. Iris, yes, Iris is waving her hand.
Yes. We're thinking positively of all these nifty things we can do, but we're not doing them. We're never going to do them. We are all going to disintegrate in about, 25 minutes, and we'll never be around again.
Okay, Iris, let's hope, my dear, that you are not the prophet Cassandra in that case. And I'm going to end with an action call here for people who want to join in building collective power for these good transitions, which is to come on the afternoon of February 19th to the all-power state-level gathering. People from all geographic areas. There will be buses from Center City. I will send you registration material in the new year. I hope people will join me on the afternoon of February 19th to make a difference in our state. And we're going to end today on that positive note for collective joining together to make some changes. And we will close with our Torah teaching song. Are we ready? For our teachers and our students and the students of our students, we ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say amen. We ask for peace and loving kindness, and let us say amen. I want to end today with thanks for Lauren for being our
Thank you, Rabbi.
and blessings to Sharon for speedy recovery from her bad cold, and love to all, and I will see you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.